You're listening to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour with Blaze and Ken. And now, Blaze and Ken.
Hello and welcome to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour. I'm Blaze.
I am Ken.
Hi, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing swimmingly. Have I used that one yet so far during the show?
Not in this kind of chillier weather, no.
It got cold fast here in Jersey. I'm not going to lie.
I know. I'm a Jersey girl now too, so I feel the same thing. I'm like, wait a minute. I was just in like a short sleeve shirt and now I have to wear sweatshirts, which listen, I'm not complaining. I love sweatshirt season as well. And this kind of season, I'm drinking this. This is seltzer water, but it's spiced apple seltzer water.
Nice.
It's really good.
I might have to try that. I love cider.
Yeah, it's called Waterloo. Just Waterloo.
Just in time for autumn.
Yes, exactly. So how's your week been? What's been new and exciting?
A lot. I mean, adapting to the new job. I mean, I'm sure I've told you, kind of hinted on the show. I've transferred my day job, so I'm working in Manhattan now, which has been a huge culture shock. It's been a lot of fun. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, my doctor said that might be the best thing for me right now.
Really?
Believe it or not, yes.
Okay.
So, but
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you had sent me a picture of like some crazy fog. So tell me, when did that happen? What was that all about?
That was last week, actually. Actually, at this point, it's a couple weeks ago because we're I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit, Blaze. We record a little bit in advance. Okay?
We do. Sometimes we do. Yes.
So by the time this show airs, this was about 2 weeks ago when we had the crazy rain and everything else. We got some fog, and it was just so cool, like to see the skyscrapers. And if you look at the ones in the back, like they're cut off, like it just like they're disappearing. It's kind of weird and magical in a weird, bizarre way. Actually, I had a Ghostbusters vibe, thinking that I'm in Manhattan.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I know that you sent another picture too. I'm going to share. This is actually Times Square. When was this? Today or like recently?
That was today, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty.
Yeah.
I love it. I see the little Wicked sign hanging, at the top there. So, and I see Taco Bell too. It's like the funny things that your eyes kind of get drawn to.
Hard Rock Cafe is there. Yep.
Yeah. It's amazing. So I was actually in the city over the weekend. Do you know who Nate Bargatze is? The comedian Nate Bargatze?
I know the name, actually.
So Nate, when I did a comedy show in the city that I produced, it was at O'Hanlon's on 14th Street. And we had amazing comedians that were either just starting out, some that were totally well established, like Jim Gaffigan used to come out. But Nate Bargatze was one of our originals that was on the show. He's good friends with Keith Alberstadt, who was one of the co-producers, and you've met Keith as well.
Oh yeah.
But I went, it was at Radio City Music Hall. So here it is, sold out show. Radio City Music Hall. I was so happy for him. I laughed so hard and I needed it. I've been through a lot lately, and it just was so nice to just laugh the entire time. And I was really lucky. A really cute couple was sitting next to me, and the gentleman I was with, he was, he laughed, but he's not a belly laugher like me. So the couple next to me, they were though. So we just, the three of us just laughed our butts off. And what was cool is that one of the openers, Mike Vecchione, was also on the show. So it was so cool to see him as well. And then Nate had his dad. Which was incredible. His dad's a magician, very, very funny magician.
Oh, neat.
And and then he told stories about Nate, some funny things. And he was just so cute and endearing. Like everybody was, just super, super excited to have his dad on it, because he does talk about his dad a little bit during his shtick, So, but it was unbelievable. And Radio City, I actually think I have a picture of them on stage. You weren't allowed to record or anything, but they let us take a picture at the end. And I think the other comedian that also was opening, I believe his name was Dustin Chaffee. And if I get that wrong, I'm sorry, Dustin. But he was really funny too. Like all of them. I mean, it was just incredible night. What a fun, amazing night to be in the city. So you gotta love the city.
Well, it's actually kind of weird and ironic in a way because you bring up the image of Radio City where I
Yeah,
work. I walk right outside my front door of the building, and Radio City and 30 Rock are actually right across the street from where I work, which is like
yeah. I love it. I love it. Speaking of love, I love our guest that we have coming on the show today. Did you do your research?
I did actually.
Okay.
It all came because you told me that this person is amazing and I have
Yeah.
to find out about her, and I did. And I'm
Yes.
glad that you made me do homework for a
Good.
change.
Good. So this is her book called Redefining Her by Georgia Wolfe-Samuels. And I was actually lucky enough to win this book. I read it, and this was one of the books that when my mom was on event that I read to my mom. She couldn't speak or anything, and this was a memoir. It's a beautiful journey, and I was just totally moved. And then I also got the cards that came with it too. So it was incredible. Honestly, I can't wait to talk to her. I know she's here, so maybe we don't wait any longer and we bring her right in. What do you think?
Why not?
All right.
I actually think so. Let's do that.
Hi, Georgia.
Hi, Blaze. Hi,
Hi.
Ken. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am great. A little cold here in the ATL. I was listening to you guys talk before, and
Yeah.
on Saturday night, we stepped out. My husband and I went to this benefit concert benefiting
Yeah.
Students Without Mothers, and it was in an amphitheater outside. And in the day, it was like 90 degrees, and all of a sudden, it was 59 degrees.
Oh
Yes.
wow.
We were not prepared.
We feel you. Trust me.
I'm telling you, up here on the in the tri-state area, I think a lot of people are just getting sick just because of how the temperature's going up and down constantly. So I
Yeah,
can only imagine how that evening was for you, being so hot and then so cold afterwards.
exactly. In
Yeah.
hot Atlanta.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
do you have a favorite season, Georgia, just out of the blue? Because like, I was telling Ken that I'm not drinking, this is the happy hour, but today I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm drinking the spiced apple Waterloo seltzer. Sounds like I'm doing a commercial for them, but it's really, really good. But I
Please
just
stop
love this
hyping them.
time of
Stop hyping them. They're not
year.
paying us, okay?
No, but do you have like, is there a favorite season that you love the most and why?
So I'm from Jamaica. I'm from the island. So I'm a
Yes.
beach girl, even though I can't swim. But I'm a beach girl. So it is summer for me
Okay.
all around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Gotcha. But if you don't swim, do you go in the water at all?
I'm in the water
Okay.
up to my neck. That's it.
There you go. Yes. Woman after my own heart. Woman after my own heart.
That's my limit. It's so funny because when I migrated to the US, I went to New York first. I lived in New York for like 13 years.
Okay.
And I migrated on Christmas Day, and it was 14 below zero.
Oh my
Oh wow.
With ice all over, and I was ready to board the plane and go back home.
Yes.
Georgia, that had to be a culture shock.
It was. Yes, it was.
I mean, New York, though, in that time of year, you couldn't have come at a better time because, in my opinion, New York City at Christmas time is magical. It really is. Like just all of the tree, obviously. There's trees, multiple trees throughout the city. We have obviously the showstopper tree at Rockefeller Center, but Bryant Park and the skating and there's so many things to see, the shop windows. But honestly, I don't know. I go every year and I can't wait for Christmas. That to me is like the most magical time, in the city.
It wasn't magical for me. It was just cold.
I gotcha. Well, listen, so let's start off with the book because to me, you heard my opener. I've actually been a guest on the Powerful Women Network actually recently. You heard me talk about your book a little bit and how much it meant to me to read this to my mom. So let's talk about the journey. How did this book even begin? What made you decide to write a book?
Before I answer that question, Blaze, I would tell you that day when I heard you make that presentation and speak about the book, I was so floored. I started to cry. I think my camera was on, so you probably saw I just bursted out in tears. I was telling my husband that night how humbled I was because when I got the thought to write the book, I was scared. And it was easy for me to say no because a lot of my story, I would say, is very sensitive and there was a lot of trauma. And for a very long time, I was very ashamed of my story. And so that presented itself in how I functioned in my working world, how I functioned in personal relationships. And so because I didn't own that story, or because I was ashamed of that story, I didn't own my story. And so what brought about the change, I think, or the decision to write the book, I would say in 2018, I had a rock bottom moment. Like literally it was rock bottom. And I was going through several life changes all at the same time. I was burnt out at work, just wrapped up working on an IPO. I was exhausted. I was on the brink of a divorce at the time. Thank God my husband and I worked that out. I had a health scare, like all within a 6-month period. I had a health scare. There's a lump in my breast that I had to go and evaluate every month for about 9 months. And then I had a TIA as well that I realized that I was having symptoms for some time before, but was just chalking it up to doing too much and being busy, etc., until it hit, right? And I had no choice but to pause. And as I was going through that season, I had to go through therapy. I went through, I leaned into my faith. And in combination, I realized that how I was functioning in the world was really a survival posture. And it was based on a definition that I have of myself of, which means not being enough, being unworthy, and how that tied into my childhood trauma. And so after coming up on the other side through that season, I realized that there were gems in my story. And I started to think back even to my engagement teams or friends, etc., and how often others would come to me for advice. And even though I wasn't okay myself in terms of my own self-belief, but how I would encourage them. And so I took that moment and realized that there were others that were showing up in a way that needed to hear my story so that it could influence them to find the gems in their story, and then they could get a new perspective of how they're showing up, a new perspective of who they are, and then shift that posture. So the purpose of writing the book was just to share my story and be vulnerable and transparent to help others do that.
Yeah.
All right, Georgia, I got to jump in for a second because it seems like you just gave us a lot of information. Like, we have a premise of what the book is about. I'm curious about all the stuff that happened beforehand that led you up to this, because it seems like there's a lot that that made you want to write this. Like, I don't want to ask you to spoil the book for us, but like, can you give us a little bit of intel of what you were going through? That led you to get to this point?
So in terms of the triggering event for the rock bottom moment, or like some of the trauma that led up to the posture that I had?
A little bit of everything, whatever you can tell us without spoiling too much.
All right, I'll tell you. Well, the book starts off, I think the first in 4 sections, or three sections. And the first section is peeling back the layers. And so peeling back the layers was kind of showing the history of what led up to my disruption, right? And so in the peeling back the layers, it first started off with, me as a 4-year-old little girl who was abandoned by my mom at around age 2. And I had an opportunity to see her again around age 4 or 5 when she visited the island of Jamaica, where I was living at the time before I migrated to the US. And she came back to bury one of her parents. And in that momentary time when I had the moment with my mom, she was getting ready to, my father and I got to the funeral a day late. So at the point when we got to the funeral, she was getting ready to come back to the US. And I was sitting on the bed, that's watching her, take the rollers out her hair and prepare. And I just remember being so mesmerized by her beauty. I know she was light skinned, I'm a darker skin. She had long hair that was straightened. I had kinky hair, and it was shorter than hers. And so I started to compare myself against her. But nonetheless, she was using this antique brush and comb set. And it was like silver, had the swirls design on the back of it and everything. And I remember asking her if she, if she could leave it with me. And she turned to me and she said no, in a nice way. But then she proceeded to give me a travel-sized bottle of Kerry lotion. And I interpreted that. My 4-year-old little brain, I was either 4 or 5, let's go with 4. My 4-year-old little brain interpreted that to mean that she wasn't giving me her antique brush and comb set because I wasn't worthy of it. And so here I was worthy of this small bottle of Kerry lotion. And I carried that thought with me for a long time. And I even gave her a name, me at the time. I gave her the name Half Pint. And Half Pint was, it was copied from a music artist, reggae artist called Half Pint, who I learned at the time garnered his name based on his stature. He was a shorter stature, and kids being kids, they made fun of you, whatever, and they nicknamed him Half Pint. And so I then was like, oh, is that what half pint means? You're not normal, you're not, standard. And so I adopted that to be who I was. And in the book later on, I flipped it in terms of how my divine really showed me the flip side of that perspective, right? That then awakened me into a whole new personality, a whole new identity. So nonetheless, from the abandonment by my mom, then I was sexually assaulted as well a few times. And then, having trouble with my dad, relationships, him and his girlfriends, and just a series of different events that, I took with me when I even got to my young adulthood. I had 2 miscarriages. It was just several experiences, trauma upon trauma upon trauma, to the point where I was burnt out. And I always tell my clients this, or anyone that I'm coaching or mentoring, I tell them that, the cause of burnout is not necessarily the challenges that you're experiencing on your job or, around you in your environment. The cause is really your identity and your misplaced identity. And so you spend all this time trying to be someone else, or trying to prove yourself, or trying to be perfect, and you ultimately burn yourself out. And so I had to come to the realization that who I was showing up was not aligned with my identity. I had lost my identity because of all those traumas that I had experienced growing up and into my early adulthood as well.
Yeah, I think, when I read the book, I especially got the abandonment part, because I think anybody really can feel that, because people just, they might not necessarily do it against you, like meaning it might not be purposeful. It just might be whatever place they're in. But abandonment could be, on a big scope, like a parent that leaves or something. I had the same thing with but my dad for a while. But I think like being ghosted, going on a date and being ghosted by somebody, it's the same thing. You get that like abandoned feeling regardless. And yeah, that does sometimes like make you say, wait, is it me? Or you just blame yourself. And then you have to take that step back. Like you said, when you get to that point where you're just burnt out and there's nothing else that you can do except to rise, right? Like that when they have that rock bottom, everybody's rock bottom's different. Some people, it's because they're addicted to something and that's their rock bottom. Sometimes it's somebody gets ill and you're like, you're beside yourself. You don't know what to do. So I just applaud you so much for having the courage, number one, to write the book, because there's a lot in there. But to see and to know you now, I didn't know you back then. So I only see the joy and I see all of that. So yes, I just want to applaud you for that and say thank you so much for having the courage to share the book. It means a lot.
Thank you. It was a heavy one. Even the morning of release, I sat on my stairs and I cried. And I was like, am I really putting this out here, for the world to see? It was scary. It was very scary.
I actually do want to ask you. So in writing the book, you actually had to call up a lot of demons, right?
Yes.
And a lot of the past. So how is that, maybe not writing something and then bringing yourself to do it? Can you give us a little bit of that journey of what it felt actually?
Yes, there were certain aspects where I remember I had to call my publisher at one point and ask for an extension. So we would set monthly goals in terms of where I would be at a certain point. And I remember one time I called her and I said, please, I need an extension. This chapter is hard. It's really hard. And she, I'm grateful for her for, giving me that extension. I just couldn't write. It took me a while to get through it because when the feelings came back up, it really
had to affect you.
It was hard, but it was healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually writing and going through it and taking my time and, giving myself the grace to go through it. Even though it was hard, it eventually was nurturing me, right? Because it's not that I'd taken the time before to really process everything. Yes, I processed some of it through therapy with, but that's of course with a therapist. But I think it was like the first time I was really sitting with myself.
Yeah.
And really going through each experience. And as I put myself back in the place, it was hard and I cried a lot. And the pandemic was going on at the same time. So I was dealing with emotions from the pandemic at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was very hard. And I had to really ask my publisher to just give me some grace, give me some extension to kind of get through those hard chapters.
Yeah. Can I ask what your process was for the writing portion? Meaning, did you you sat down every day and, for X amount of time you just wrote, or was it, sporadic? What was your process there?
So that's a great question. So the idea of the book came about prior to COVID, prior to 2020. But, being a public accountant, I was busy. I'm a mom of a teenager, a wife. My schedule was crazy. And so add to that, in Atlanta, I'm sure you've heard of Atlanta traffic. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So on any given day, on average, I would spend 3 hours in traffic, whether it's an hour and a half going and an hour and a half back, or 2 hours going, or whatever the case may be. On an average day, it's about 2.5 hours to 3 hours traffic.
Georgia, don't feel bad. We have it in Jersey too.
Sure.
And so when COVID happened, and initially I thought, COVID is just going to last 3 weeks. When I saw that it wasn't going to last 3 weeks, what I told myself was, I'm coming out of this with something tangible, something profound. And so what I did was repurpose my time. Okay, so whether it meant getting up earlier in the morning and for an hour writing, or it meant, staying up later at night because now I didn't necessarily need to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to work. I could sleep a little later. So that meant I could, work a little later. So I had designated times, certain days of the week that I would just dedicate that to my writing process. And I worked with a publishing coach who kind of helped me set goals to say, okay, this month you're going to get through chapters 1, chapter 2, or, you're going to get through your title, because it wasn't titled initially. I just started writing and the title came about during the process. So we set goals for each month. And then I, established certain times within the week, whether it's at night or early mornings, to really dedicate myself to writing. And then in the end, when, things started opening back up, I started reserving a hotel room, and I would go to the hotel room for a whole weekend, put my phone on Do Not Disturb and just focus on editing and reformatting and, all the works. But it took definitely dedication and focus.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, that's a little bit of inspiration for me because, God, how long has it been? About 10 years ago almost that Hurricane Sandy hit us, Blaze?
Yeah.
And during that time, I was without power for a long time. And I always had so many stories that I vowed that I was going to do my own memoir. And I took that time during Sandy to start it, and I didn't finish it, but I was happy that I was able to start getting stories together and compiling them and actually going back into my own history and revisiting some weird things that I never thought I'd ever bring up. But then I stopped after, everything with Sandy was happening, and I've really been wanting to revisit it. And talking to you now, I kind of want to go back to it now because there are a lot of stories.
I'm happy to hear that, Ken. I look forward to reading it. Remember, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from where you left off. So you're in a better place than where you were the last time.
And you know what? That makes a lot of sense too, actually, because you're right. I am, and maybe that could give a lot more better perspective too.
That's true. And you have more stories during the interim that you can add, and more perspectives.
Yeah,
different perspectives.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to actually pull out your cards. This is the Redefining Her. Where did the card idea come from? Their 40 affirmation card deck. Where did that come from?
So this was a divine revelation. So I knew nothing about creating affirmation cards. And we were on our winter break. So the vision for this came in December 2020. And the book was actually released March 2021. But in December 2020, it was pretty much done. It was going through the editing process. And I remember I woke up one morning during that winter break. It was close to Christmas, but I can't remember if it was before Christmas or after. And I just got the nudge, go and create affirmation cards for the book. And I was like, I thought writing the book was it. What am I doing? I don't know anything about affirmation cards. And so the first thing I did, I came down to my computer, and I remember I went to Microsoft Word, and I was looking if Microsoft Word had a template for affirmation cards. Nothing. I started searching, Googling, searching the internet, how to make affirmation cards. And I came across this course. So this coach had this course that, she taught people how to make affirmation cards. But the price of the course was $1,800. And I said, nah, that's not in my budget. So I'm going to
absolutely.
So then I started researching, and I found several, and I ordered some affirmation cards as well. And the purpose of that was to see what the average measurement was. And so once I saw a few, when I saw physically, the size that I wanted, I went into Canva, and I, stipulated what size I wanted. And I just started dropping in the affirmations, right? And of course, they're connected to the story. It just came freely for me. And after I did that, it took me 2 days to finish that process. But then here comes the other process that took me 2 months. Who is going to produce it?
Right.
Who is going to print it? And so I tried several different avenues. I remember I tried about 3 different printing companies in the US. And the cost was just not feasible. I think the minimum was like $10, $12 per deck. And I was like, yeah, no. For me to make a profit, that would be impossible for me to print in the US. So I remember I went through Alibaba and found this service in China that would print the cards for me. And I sent them over there, utilize that services. And within, I think it took them about 2.5 months, because they had their Chinese New Year. So that, stalled the process for a little bit. But then within 2 months, I had my shipment of affirmation cards.
Yeah, I love them. They're like the perfect size and everything too.
Yes.
So, all right, I'm just going to random, totally random.
I was going to ask you, could you actually read a couple of them for me?
Yes, I'm going to randomly pick. All right, here's one. I will invest in myself because I'm worth it.
Simple.
So great. Okay. I have the power to create the change I desire. That's a good one. All right, let's see. Oh, wait, I see one that's sitting here that's staring at me, so I feel like I have to grab it. I will set a high bar for myself, believing that I am fully capable. That one's good.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, we put so many blocks in our way, this is perfect. Set that high bar. And
so 2 of my favorites. So this one is, I have value, and value is an acronym. There is power in my voice and my visions. There is treasure in my aspirations, right? My dreams and my life experiences. My uniqueness is God's personal stamp on me. My existence is on purpose for a purpose. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
When you said it was an acronym, I was curious about what U and E were going to be, and those are perfect.
Thank you. And then the other one is, the failures I experience does not mean I am a failure. My past does not define me or dictate my future success. A lot of times that this definitely was my posture, where I felt like all the bad and adverse experiences that I experienced actually define me, as opposed to, you know, the perspective that they're actually informing me. It has nothing to do with my identity and who I am. And I'm not the only one going through things. Everyone, you know, has stumbling blocks. So those two affirmations are my favorite.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, Ken, I'm going to get the cards over to you so that you can pick your favorites out.
Absolutely.
And if we have Georgia back sometime, you can let her know which ones are your favorite.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Definitely. All right. So moving on to what's next for you. Do you have any, was that just your first and only book, or do you have other ones in your pipeline?
Actually, I did a children's book in 2009.
Amazing.
Yes. I Forgive You, Daddy. I Love You Anyway. I don't think Amazon may have a couple, but it's not that much in circulation anymore. This was in 2009.
Right.
I was really inspired by what I was going through with my daughter. It was really to help my daughter with our circumstances at the time. I just come out of a domestic violent relationship. And so, you know, kind of explaining to her and trying to keep her positive, you know, was the baseline for writing that book.
Yeah.
And then what I have on the pipeline right now is I'm working on another book, which will be focused on our career. So it's for working women. And the purpose or the premise is more so to help shift so I have an overall mission to help shift the posture of women in their working world. Sorry, Ken, I'm not excluding men. It's just that I speak woman.
I understand. I get it. It's great. It's awesome, actually.
Yeah. And so along with that mission to help shift the posture of women in our working worlds, I am writing this book to pretty much go through a framework that I created and to help us shift our posture. I am also working, as a matter of fact, I have a masterclass next Monday, October 16th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the title of that masterclass is Own Your Power at Work. And so the website, of course, to sign up is www.ownyourpoweratwork.com. And that will be a masterclass again. And then from there, I'm also creating another signature program, which I'll announce through that masterclass. So the book is coming. The coaching program is on its way in short order. The masterclass is coming as well. So that's the things that are near on the horizon.
Nice. Do you have the link on your GeorgiaWolfe-Samuels.com? Is there a way to connect to the masterclass in there?
I don't have it on the website yet.
Okay. And Sam, tell everybody again, because we're showing everybody the scroll, the ticker of, oh, wait, look at that. Ken did it quickly. Is that right? Is that
yes, ownyourpoweratwork.com.
Great. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Look how fast Ken did it. He was so good.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Well, listen, we're excited for your next book for sure. And we want to get to know you a little bit better. So we're just going to throw out some random questions to you and just have a little fun. So I want to know what makes you laugh.
Ooh, I love comedy. That's point blank. I like it when people are just free, you know, just authentic, just cool and respectful, but that puts me in a very good mood and makes me laugh. When people are authentic, they're genuine, they're respectful, and of course, when they give jokes. I'm one for a good comedy show.
Yeah.
Georgia, I'll actually expand on that. Is there an actor or a comedian that you gravitate towards that you actually like?
I like a lot of them. So in terms of comedian, I love Mike Epps. I love Kevin Hart.
Yes.
Of course, Steve Harvey. There's a plethora of them. I don't think there's a comedian I don't like.
Kevin Hart, I saw last year. He had a show with, oh my gosh, like Chris Rock.
Chris Rock.
And Chris was a little too much for me. Kevin was right where I like comedy. So it was like, I mean, and I laughed at Chris's stuff, some of it, but some was a little too much for me. But I definitely like Kevin Hart. And I remember, I wish we had our phones out because there were so many moments I wanted to capture because he's just so good. He's just so good. And I love the relationship he has with The Rock.
Yes.
You know, just the two of them battling back and forth with each other. As a matter of fact, Ken had sent me a picture. This is a great segue. Ken sent me this picture today from Madame Tussauds. Is that right outside of the?
It's right on 42nd Street in Manhattan. Yeah, it's right outside of the building. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Wow.
Those kind of wax figurines. Some of them look so real that it's creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, is it my question? I would like to know, how did you get your name? Actually, I'm not the one that wants to know that. My mom does. My mom, when I told her that you were going to be our guest, she said, how did you get her name? Is it after the state of Georgia, or is it like, is there something else? So that's the question from my mom.
So my father's name is George, and so I became Georgia.
Okay. Got it.
Simple.
Got it. Love it.
I got one. What inspires you?
Ooh. Everything I do is surrounded, or I would say fueled by my purpose. And my purpose in a nutshell is to be an uplifter. So whether I'm in my business world, whether I'm in my working world, whether I'm with friends, at home, my purpose is an uplifter. And so what inspires me to keep showing up and do what I have to do is because I know that at the end of my days here on earth, I'm going home empty. That fuels me. That inspires me to show up. So when I'm scared to release the book, when I'm scared to be transparent, when I'm scared to be vulnerable, I just remember that I'm going home empty.
That's great.
Achiever is my number one strength. So I need to cross off everything off the list, which means I go home empty.
Do you have a bucket list item that you need to take care of within the next couple of years? What's your bucket list? Like what's the top one?
So my bucket list is usually travels, like places I want to go. And Africa is one of them. I want to go to the continent of Africa. There are several countries I want to go to: Johannesburg, Zimbabwe, Ghana. Like I want to spend some good time in Africa. Right now, I need to convince my husband because he doesn't like traveling or taking a flight more than 2.5 hours. So every time we travel, it ends up being in the Caribbean, or most of the time Jamaica.
Yeah,
I can relate with your husband, actually.
I'm with you. I like to travel, doesn't matter where. If it's a destination that I've never been to, I don't care how many hours I'm on a plane. No big deal. I just bring my headsets, watch movies, chill out. Not a big deal.
Drink some wine, go to sleep.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, I would say my bucket list tends to be travel. So it's where do I want to go?
Yeah.
All right, Georgia, I got one for you. I think it might be my last one, but you have a day job. You're a writer. You influence. You have a family. What are your hobbies? What do you do when you're not doing that?
So I'll be honest with you. So my husband and I actually had this conversation last night. And I pretty much have to ask everyone for grace right now. Because as I'm building out these different things right now, we have the restaurant. So my husband and I have a restaurant. It's like 10 minutes from here. And that in and of itself has its own challenges. And then work has its challenges. And being a mom and still, being a wife. I'll be honest with you and transparent. I have 3 loads of laundry at the top of the stairs staring at me that thank God are clean, but I've been sitting there for over 2 weeks. That's not yet folded and put away. Okay. But it's at the bottom of the priority list. You need clothes, somebody have to go digging in the basket because I don't have time. But I would say right now, I don't have much hobbies, unfortunately, because I'm focused trying to set up the systems for each of these things that I'm working on. The good thing is once they're launched, it will be, not smooth sailing. I don't want to say smooth sailing. The way I set up things, it's, I want certain aspects to be automated. That way I can focus on the more important pieces of it. But one thing I would say I've committed to, and I committed to this with my husband, that once per quarter, we would take a vacation. So gone are the days where, oh, you just go on vacation 1 week out of the year. No, each quarter. And we were able to live up to that last year. And so far this year, we are on track for fulfilling that as well. 1 vacation per quarter.
Georgia, I want to jump in there real quick again, too. I personally consider myself a home chef or a home cook. Can you tell us a little bit about your restaurant?
Yeah, that was going to be my question, too.
Yeah, so it's actually a Caribbean restaurant. It's a flair of mostly Jamaican cuisines, but then we have a touch of some of the other Caribbean islands.
I love Jamaican cooking.
The name of it is Escoviches, Escovitchez. And the name was pretty much inspired. So we were trying to look for names that we could trademark. But that would signify that, you know, to any Caribbean person, that it's a Caribbean restaurant. And everything we kept coming up with was already taken. And so I thought of escovitch, and escovitch is like a manner in which you prepare certain dishes, right? In Jamaica, it's usually the fish. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, you can't trademark escovitch. So why not just add chez, which is house off in France.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it became Escoviches, and it took off. So this October will make 4 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it actually, COVID came when we were just 4 months old.
I was going to say, yeah, like that hit that whole time period there.
Exactly.
So how did that work out?
Oh, that was challenging. That was challenging. You know, for months we couldn't open the dining room. We had to, so true story, we actually have a lot of other Jamaican restaurants around us, but none focused on dining. And so we wanted to create one that was fine dining, where, you know, folks could come on a date night, bring their families, celebrate their birthdays, etc. And so when we created the restaurant, we were not focused on to-go orders. You know, there were a lot of Jamaican restaurants around us that did to-go orders. They were over the counter. And so we figured let them handle clientele who are, you know, interested in to-go, and then we would focus on the dine-in. And when we had to close the dining room, we had to figure it out real quick because to-go was our livelihood for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my last question is a question we ask all of our guests. And I just want to know what piece of advice you have for someone who has a story. They might be a little afraid to tell it. You know, how do you get them over the hump? What's your piece of advice that you have for them?
I think, let me see, the piece of advice I would have for them. I think anything that we eventually do, it happens twice. It happens first in our minds before it becomes reality. I heard that from one of my coach, and that became one of my anchor sayings for me as well. Everything that happens twice. It first starts in your mind. So what that means is, you know, you first have to believe it. And so the fear is normal. The fear is, you know, natural just because you're human, but the fear is also evidence that you're about to step into something greater. And so I would challenge them to change the perspective of that fear. As you know, if you look at it, oh, I'm fearful, I'm afraid I'm going to fail, then you're giving fear the power. But if you embrace fear and look at fear as evidence that something greater is required of you and you're about to step into that something greater, I think that gives you the power to really embrace that story and embrace that project and embrace whatever it is that you're holding on to, that you want to step into, or that you want to step into.
Awesome.
Yes, excellent advice. Amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm sad that this is the end of our time with you. I hope that you will come back and visit us sometime. We're going to, I don't know if you have a drink over there, if you want to say cheers with us.
My glass is empty. I had it.
Oh, it's okay. Cheers. We will cheers. Thank you so much. Georgia Wolfe-Samuels, we can't wait for your next book to come out. And if we're ever in Atlanta, we're definitely stopping at that restaurant.
Oh,
and, yeah. And maybe, you know, we'll see each other on the road sometime. I think you and I can would be good travelers together.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Blaze and Ken, for having me. This was delightful. I love it. I really enjoyed myself.
It was such a pleasure meeting you, actually. So thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
No problem.
Georgia. Have a good one. Take care.
All right. Take care.
She was so great. Like, wow.
It was great.
And inspiring.
Very. I was going to say, what did you take most from? Because there were a lot of nuggets she had in there. So what did you take most from
You know what? I'll be honest. I kind of brought it up earlier. Like I've been wanting to write a memoir for a while. I stopped, and listening to what she had to say about what she brought to it and what she, self-reflected with to bring her story to it. I'm like, you know what? I think I want to go back to that. I think I actually have a story that I can tell. And it's taken a while for me to be able to say that, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. And if she inspired you for that, love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like the "it happens twice" thing really resonated with me. That you think of it and then then it happens later on. So or whenever. But yeah, I love that concept. So smart. Listen, to our guests out there, a memoir, Redefining Her by Georgia Wolfe-Samuels. So excited. And if you want to, it's my journey to self-acceptance and love, and it really will touch you. So,
and I know we finished with her, but I'm going to put it up here again. Her seminar's coming up this week. OwnYourPowerAtWork.com. Highly recommend signing on, checking it out.
Yes, for sure. Well, I think we have one thing to do before we sign off for the day, and I have a feeling that Nicole is going to be talking about some Caribbean food. I have a feeling. So let's roll that clip.
I hope so. Let's do it.
What's up, Ken and Blaze? I don't know about you, but this whole conversation has me craving some Jamaican food. And while I'm ordering, no, I don't go for the jerk chicken. I'm not going for a beef patty. I want that curry goat. Now, why should we incorporate meats such as goat into our diet? And by the way, I'm seeing more and more offerings like that in even big box stores. Why should we have goat? Well, for fewer than 150 calories, you're getting 27 grams of protein. But did you know that goat actually has more iron than even beef and more than lamb as well? Why do we need iron? We need iron for our blood health. We need it for immunity. We need it for the health of our skin and nails. Mothers who are expecting need even more of it. And we even need it for our metabolism. So maybe when you're stopping off to pick up some of that delicious Jamaican food, if you haven't tried it before, maybe you'll consider trying some curry goat this time. Or maybe you're going to consider preparing goat on your own at home. Either way, hope you try it. Ken and Blaze, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I always appreciate you. And when are we having dinner? When are we going? When are we going to Atlanta to check out that restaurant?
When we go to Atlanta, when am I going to be able to finally hang out with you and Nicole? Maybe we'll go out and have a meal together. Maybe I'll cook for all of us for a change.
Okay. All right.
Nicole does a lot of heavy lifting for us. Maybe I can jump in and do something for a change, Well,
we appreciate it. Listen, that's going to do it for us this week. So much thankfulness and gratitude to our wonderful guest, Georgia Wolfe-Samuels. And I hope that you will go out and get her book, Redefining Her.
Yes.
Look out for her new book coming out, and have a great week. Hope you're inspired. Take care, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.
You've just enjoyed the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour with Blaze and Ken.